Greetings, ladies and melogons, and welcome to this latest edition of RE062, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called You Ate What? Written by Lostfol. Human Howard, what are you doing with the Ixtil ship? Warlord asked, fearing he knew the answer. He was talking to one of the human pilots as the ambassador were all having appropriately prepared nutrient bars. Warlord always found ambassadors were too careful with what they said. It was better to get those escorting them if you wanted the truth. That's a ship. Oh, I'm so sorry, Howard replied in shock, his skin changing to a slightly reddish hue. The poor ship lay there naked and limp. His race's natural defense was to go limp when threatened, which he promptly did when picked up by the human. Unfortunately, this was not to have been the first time they'd lost a ship to a new race. Warlord watched as the human proceeded to take Zytel to the sink and dunk the shemp into water a few times before piling his decorative shell back on him. The shemp is probably fine, he thought to himself. Well, after some therapy. My God, I hope that the cocktail sauce I dipped him in doesn't hurt him too badly. Howard was obviously distraught over the near catastrophe. Warlord looked the human over carefully. Warlord's species was mineral-based and generally got along well with everything except plant-based species. This is partially why they were normally selected to meet new species. And they don't get much newer than the humans. They had only developed FTL because of a failed invasion attempt of their homeworld. Not even a generation had passed since they suddenly discovered that they weren't alone. They hadn't been properly introduced to all the races. Tell me, what does your race normally eat? The human's features appeared to have both carnivorous and herbivore features, something rather rare amongst the higher functioning creatures of the universe, Warlord mused. Well, we're omnivores, but we don't eat anything sapient, Howard responded. He still looked shocked and kept looking back at the shemp. He obviously missed that he had the attention of every Xeno in earshot. Oh, this will be fun, thought Warlord. Omnivores, you say? That means your kind eats meat and plants. How do you determine if something is sapient? He exclaimed. He could see the discomfort on the faces of all around him. The humans had made a name for themselves early on when attacked by the Secleta. The Secleta were some of the most feared predators in the galaxy, eating any fleshy creatures they could catch. The humans not only stopped them, but captured and reversed engineered their technology. The following counterattack had been so vicious the Secleta had actually turned to the Council for protection. Centuries of raids against other Council races had stopped overnight. Well, Howard started, suddenly aware of all the eyes upon him. It's self-aware, the ability of abstract thought, empathy, and such. Warlord's features were impossible to read, being mostly solid, but he was enjoying the obvious discomfort of what many other Xenos around him. So your species would never eat a sapient. How can they tell if one is? Howard looked a little uncomfortable. Generally by their demonstrated behavior. And most of us wouldn't eat a sapient. There have been a couple incidents in extreme situations. Warlord had heard the rumors, but he was enjoying the nervous look of the Xenos around. Occasionally, he would catch they glanced at the Shem and then back at the human. Perhaps you can elaborate on some of the foods native to your world. For Zytel's sake, maybe start with what you mistook him for, Warlord asked, a part of him loving the fact that every race present was nervous to be around an omnivore. He was glad to be mineral-based. Zytel still wasn't moving, but looked to be watching. Well, Howard started, looking towards the shemp. He looked like a shrimp. We serve them as appetizers with cocktail sauce before big meals. We eat a lot of meat and vegetables to sustain ourselves. Howard's admission causing several nearby Xenos to step back, seeing the opportunity. Warlord couldn't help but ask, what about fruit? He knew the Yanga was behind Howard. They would gladly have fed on him. He knew they were sensitive to the fact most herbivores love their fruit, which was their young. Yeah, we eat fruit too, even make medicine with bark sometimes. We also do a lot with the wood, Howard answered, oblivious to the look of terror on the Yanga behind him. Warlord could not think of anything that could make this better. Warlord was enjoying this. Well, at least you don't eat your own kind. Howard looked really uncomfortable. Well, there have been a few occasions where humans have done that, but cannibalism is very rare. At this, even the carnivores present backed off some. Warlord was momentarily speechless. He looked at Howard a long moment, trying to determine if he was serious. But we would only do so as a last resort. Generally, anything else will get eaten first, Howard explained, completely oblivious to the impact this was having on the other Xenos. The Secleta claimed your race had eaten some of them? Warlord carefully approached the topic warily. Well, when they attacked Earth, they burned our crops. They also killed a lot of our domestic animals. They caused massive food shortages, so when their colony ship landed, and they looked like feral pigs, we had to eat something, Howard responded. Warlord was a little taken back. He'd heard the reports, but had thought the Secleta had made it up. Suddenly, he was much happier to be mineral-based. In the food cycle, it seemed only he was safe. So far, it sounded like he was the only Xeno present not on the menu if they got stuck. It seemed sodium chloride was about the only thing these creatures didn't eat. He had heard them refer to it as a food pyramid, but it wasn't driven home. That was until Howard continued, "They actually taste great with a little ground salt." End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.